Well, we are live, pals. Welcome to another edition of the Counted Out Watch Along series. Tyler here, joined by a rarity where Mike and I are together. Are you Mojito Mike still, or are you retired from that now?
No, I'm temporarily retired. Tonight I'm Sleeman Mike.
Mike.
Yeah, let's not to be mistaken with
Well, I brought Jack Daniels out of retirement for this one. I wish that we had some better news to go with here. As we record this, the breaking news is that legendary wrestler Kamala has passed away. So we decided to take a look back at one of his most famous matches, and it's a little clip format here, but I thought it would be cool to take a look at Kamala versus Jerry Lawler from Memphis.
Absolutely. Was this? Yeah, you're right. This was Memphis. Was this Memphis or AWA?
This is Memphis. This is in the Memphis Coliseum.
Okay. All right, good enough. Because both men worked in AWA, so I was just like, wait a second. However, Jerry has a lot to do with the start of Kamala's career.
Oh yeah.
If I've seen some documentaries in the past about Lawler talking very, very fondly of his friend Sugar Bear Harris.
That's some vintage Kamala, by the way. That belly slap right there.
The belly slap. Oh yeah, love it.
Lawler sell it too.
And he's one of the rare characters where they didn't really water him down or dumb him down too much in WWF. The character he plays right now is pretty much the character he played in WWF. They just gave him a lot more to work with. They gave him what was his name? Kimchi,
that's right.
Kimchi, yeah. And then who else did they give him? Was it
they had Harvey Whippleman for a bit.
Whippleman. I was gonna say Cornette. But no, you're right. It was
Slick when he turned face. Oh, agile,
right,
big
yeah.
Too. Well, this was we'll talk a little bit more about what evolved with Kamala too, because this was Kamala's real first start here. Lawler came up with this gimmick. All those, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the original vignettes of Kamala.
All those vignettes, that was all Lawler.
It was all in his backyard.
Yeah.
They just put him in the bushes. I love those vignettes that had like that jungle music, and all you hear is Kamala. And they had him played off like he was really a Ugandan headhunter. And people believed it.
Absolutely. And it's one of these rare times where, this character still sort of aged well, where, you don't look back on it the way you look back on, let's say, Saba Simba. You know what I mean?
No, God, no.
You don't look back on it and go, holy fuck, this was a big pile of racist shit. Because of the way that Harris played the character, he didn't play it offensive. He didn't play it, in any sort of way to make you think that this was, even though it was created by a bunch of white guys, Harris made it his own really quick, and Kamala became this whole thing that, I don't look at it as a racist character whatsoever. He made it into something that he could be proud of.
Absolutely. And I think on this episode, normally we talk a little bit more about the match and watch a match, but I think we should just talk about the legacy of Kamala. And, this match in particular was one of his first matches in Memphis, I believe. This is him and Lawler, and Lawler, Kamala got hired in. I can't remember by who, but he would go on to travel to all of these territories. He worked World Class. He worked Mid-South. He was in the WWE, WCW. Kamala's legacy has got to go down as one of the better big men in the business, right?
Absolutely.
That might have been Jimmy Hart on the apron there. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. My screen fucking froze for a second.
Oh,
so I'm gonna be a few seconds behind you. But yeah, that did look like Jimmy Hart. I just saw him now.
Well, that's all right. Definitely. We're talking more about Kamala's
legacy. We're not exactly following the match, so it's not that bad.
And one thing that was cool about Kamala is that he could get brought into every territory kind of the same way. When he went to World Class, it was Skandar Akbar who had the money and brought in the headhunter. You know what I mean? Mid-South, insert heel manager here to hire the hired gun to take out the top babyface.
I'm noticing something right now that I have never, ever given thought to until this moment. But so hear me out. Tell me what you think of this. Just I'm watching his style. I'm watching the way he carries himself and the way his wrestling style, like his actual strikes and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that very possibly Umaga was very influenced by Kamala?
I think you'd have to. I think you would have to be. You know, Umaga took on a similar character, and
Yeah,
also
and I'm
every
not
guy
trying to
could
compare
study,
them
right?
because of I'm not trying to compare them because of that part, like the very jungleistic part of it, but even his style, the strikes, the the very there's a lot of hand strikes, a lot of spikes. Like I
Yeah.
saw him almost use that like thumb move.
No,
You know, oh
I
look
can see
look
that.
look at good old heel Jerry or face Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, he got the
As much
strap
as
down.
much as I think he is one of the greatest heels in history, god damn was he a fucking white meat in Memphis, eh?
Oh man, look at it, and you can see that. I know I'm a little ahead of you here, but you can see the old grandma standing up, pumping the fist. Like he
Exactly.
had,
No.
he was over like Rover. He's one of the biggest draws in wrestling, you know.
Oh yeah.
And speaking of draws too,
I don't even need my volume up and I can hear the pop right now.
oh
You know?
absolutely. But let's go back to
He
Kamala for
was
a second here.
he was the Hogan of Memphis, man.
Oh, big time, big time. And you know, he went on to have a nice run in the AWA, and now obviously what he's done in the WWE. Going back to Kamala for a minute here, you want to talk about being big draws. Kamala worked with everybody. He worked with
Yeah.
Andre in Toronto. He worked with the Von Erichs in Texas. He had a run on top with Hogan in WWF in the late '80s for his first run there. And then he came back and had that legendary feud with the Undertaker as well.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of my favorite feuds.
Yeah, and
That that I don't think that was the very first casket match by any means, but it was the one that put casket matches on the map.
it's the first one I can remember the WWF doing.
I feel like there was one more before that. It just may not have been televised. I remember
Yeah, you're probably right on that, 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then after that run though with Takers, where Kamala was a great babyface.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and he had a great gimmick with Slick trying to humanize him. I don't know if you remember that, and you know, and he was getting crowd reaction because he all of a sudden didn't know how to pin people, so he would do his big splash and try to roll them over, and the crowd was
that was great. That was classic.
Good stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And then
But
even after that, he went on to WCW.
It didn't come off as stupid.
Yeah.
If anybody else would have tried that gimmick, it would have came off as well as Eugene did. You know what I mean? But this, it worked for Kamala. He made things work.
Well, and then he went on to have his little run in WCW with the Faces of Fear, and you know, he had a great career.
I don't think Sugar Bear Harris as a man gets enough credit for what he did with this character, and I don't think the character gets enough credit for the legacy that he had.
This is one of the better gimmicks. You know, when you talk about like gimmicks that are a little more outlandish in that style, this is one of the better ones for sure.
Absolutely. And it goes right back to what I said a few minutes ago about, you know, not very many gimmicks from 20, 30, 40 years ago age well. You know, there's only a handful of gimmicks that you can say, oh, yeah, I can still get behind that. You know, The Undertaker is obviously one of them. Kamala is still one of them.
Oh, yeah.
If Harris was still wrestling, excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
You know, if Harris in the last 10, 15 years was still able to go and do some in-ring stuff, if he was to come and do a spot for WWE, he'd get a pop.
Well, I know you mentioned this name earlier, but he did come in and do a little match. He did a match with Umaga. He had a match with Randy Orton when Orton was doing his Legend Killer career, and he was.
I honestly don't remember the Umaga thing. I need to go and find that.
It was quick. Yeah, Umaga squashed him because that's when they were really pushing Umaga hard. But it was cool to see those two in together.
That's very cool. So I guess I'm not the first. I guess my idea of comparing the two is not exactly as original as I thought it was.
You know what? I forgot about the match too until I was looking to find this one on YouTube, and I stumbled upon it. And you know, to top it off, Kamala wasn't too bad of a musician either. I don't know if you ever heard any of his saxophone music.
I have. Very, very impressive.
Yeah,
Did you ever see the great Jerry Lawler story where he pretended to be a cop and pulled over Kamala?
No, I might have heard it. I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's one of my favorite stories. He said he used to like to rib Kamala a lot, and because Kamala was such a huge teddy bear, apparently.
Well,
And it's so
and that's
very
what you hear
soft.
about Kamala. And Kamala wasn't
Yeah.
afraid. He stuck up for himself too. He wasn't happy with his
Exactly.
payoff at SummerSlam with Taker.
Oh no. Yeah, no, you hear some of the stuff that man has said about certain promoters over the last couple of years. He was not afraid to say things.
And it's too bad the last couple of years of his life were so rough on him with the diabetes, and then he
Of
lost his
course.
foot.
Did he end up losing? I think he ended up losing both feet, if I'm not mistaken.
Did he lose both? And
I
this
feel-
match is coming to
I
an
feel
end
like-
here.
Yeah.
What do you want to let's put our final thoughts on the Ugandan Giant Kamala here as the match comes to an end for us. What do you think his legacy is?
His legacy is everything that we just said about being able to pull off a gimmick like that, and the fact that we're still talking about this gimmick 30, 40 years later.
Absolutely.
This match we're watching right now, dude, is 35 years old.
That's Undertaker territory.
You know what I mean? Like it's insane. I said 35 years old because I thought it said 1985. It's because my screen switched over to Kamala versus Jimmy Valiant.
The Boogie Woogie Man.
And that is 1985. So I don't know what year that Jerry Lawler match was.
I want to say this match was 83 in all honesty.
So
that's
almost,
just me taking
almost
a guess.
40 years old, which is sickening to say out loud because I was born in 1981. But yeah, the fact that we can still talk about, not everybody who wrestled 40 years ago is going to be talked about on the day they die. Let's be honest.
No, absolutely not.
And the fact that, on the day that Kamala passes away, that we feel inclined as fans, we feel inclined to go and watch his matches and talk about him. That's his legacy right there. Because he was able to take something silly like the Ugandan Giant and make it work for 40 years.
I gotta say, rest in peace to Kamala for a legendary career that he had. Thank you for all the entertainment that he gave us. And I just take a minute and watch a Kamala match today, whether he's a heel, whether he's a face, whether just take a minute and watch some Kamala. Do yourself a favor. Pay some respect
Absolutely.
to a guy who he gave his whole career to the business. He gave his whole life to the business.
Mm-hmm.
His legacy speaks for himself. His body of work speaks for himself. Rest in peace, Kamala. You got anything you want to put on that before we wrap it up here?
No, man, you said it all.
Well, one more time, Kamala, thank you for everything. Rest in peace. Mike, why don't you take us home?
And for the very last time, Kamala has been counted out.